So Zach, you and I are about to have a conversation that is a role play of the discussion that our consultants should be expecting to have as they enter into the business plan discussion they have with their clients for the first time as a result of the client responding to the first email that the students or consultants have all now spent. And we know that in background or in preparation for this, that the consultants, like myself, will have done some background research on the company. But to suggest then that that means that we understand the company probably is a bit of an overstatement. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the purpose of this initial discussion, and we're going to play this out in just a few moments, but the purpose of the initial discussion is to set up some parameters, to set up some expectations, to introduce the consultant to the business owner and the business owner to the consultant, and then to talk about the things that are going to help the consultant understand the business owner, and all of its relevant resources enough to be able to fulfill the needs of the business plan. And there will be a little bit more of this when it comes to the valuation analysis, but we'll restrain this just to the business plan itself. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. So at this point, you've received my email, and we have set up this Zoom. We're now on the Zoom today. So, Mr. Douglas, thank you for being willing to spend some time with me. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Well, and I have to admit, we're very appreciative that you're willing to allow us to do some work with your business to not only give you what we hope is a valuable resource, a fully fleshed out business plan and cash flow projection, but also that gives us some additional experience and helps us come to yet a better personal, very applied understanding of a wide range of businesses. You should know that in this particular class, we're actually in the process of doing business plans and or business valuations for 36 different firms across Utah. And there's two sections of students in this class. I'm in one of these sections. And I'm just grateful to have an opportunity to spend some time with you, learn about your business, and hopefully provide something of value to you.
That sounds great.
Thank you. So let's start by me telling you a little bit about myself, and then maybe if you could respond by telling me a little bit about yourself, your background, and then the business that you own, and kind of a narrative about it, if you will. So you know, my name is Rick Haskell, and I'm a senior in finance at Westminster College. And this particular course is one of the capstone courses in my program. This happens to be a capstone course for the lower division core. And we've organized ourselves into a student-led business consultancy by the name of Gore Consulting, where we're in the process of providing these business plans and cash flow projections. And you realize, of course, it will take us virtually all semester to do this. And that sounds like a lot of time, but we're already fully 1 month into the semester. And so the time will go very rapidly for us, and hopefully for you as well. So I am originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've lived here in Utah for quite a number of years, and looking forward to hopefully having a career in finance. So tell me a little bit about yourself, if you will, including how you got involved in the business you're in, maybe a little bit about the experiences you had prior to that, and then tell me about your business.
Sure. So I went to school in Salt Lake City, and I'm a graduate now. I started my business through some of the connections that I had that were already in the industry. And these connections I had built by doing a co-op program while I was in school. But I work in pest control services, and I am the only owner, and I started it 2 years ago. I make right now, last year I made about $80,000 in revenue and about $18,000 in profit. I don't have much experience in the pest control industry other than starting my business when I did 2 years ago and being able to network with that individual who was running his business for 15 years when I had met him. and now it's about 18 years that he's been running his own business. I charge services that are I charge for my services are about average to others. And my competitive advantage is that I use new technology and I use sustainable products that customers are preferring now, considering all the other things that are going on with the environment. I predict just modest growth rates considering what I've seen in the past.
So do you mind if I kind of jump in every now and then and ask a question or seek clarification?
Yeah.
So you've been in the pest control business for 2 years. Your most recent revenue, annual revenue, is about $80,000, off of which you have an $18,000 profit. Are you also paying yourself a wage or a salary of some kind through the business, or is your income from the business the $18,000 in profit?
No, I take a $10,000 distribution.
Okay, so the sum of those two is you might have earned $28,000 in the business over this last year. And is this a full-time endeavor for you, or is this a part-time job?
This is part-time still for me.
Got it. And that's what I might have assumed given those numbers. Is it your intention to, like the associate that's been in this business for 15 years, is your intention to keep this long-term and really develop something of significance with this?
Well, that was my intention with starting it, but I haven't really seen rapid growth like I anticipated. So I'm not
Okay.
really at this.
Well, and you've referenced pest control, of course. I don't know that I heard you say whether this was commercial application or residential application.
This is more residential application.
Okay. So if you had the opportunity to turn this into a substantial business where you expanded, maybe brought on employees, took on new geography, is that something you'd like to do? Or now, having been in it for a couple of years, are you thinking this is not exactly the business for you?
Yeah, that's something I would be interested in.
Okay, well, very good. One of the things that we're going to try to do is work with you to develop the narrative of the business plan. So what I want to do is spend a couple of minutes talking about the major components of that plan. And then some of these things are things that I will do with the team that I'm working with. I'll do most of it, but I might need a little bit of input from you on some of these elements. And other elements are items I'm going to need primarily from you. And then yet others are ones we'll work on jointly. So let's start with the items that I believe I will be doing most of the work on, and then maybe getting some input from you. So one of the first items that we deal with when we put together a plan is we look at the competitive market, and we try to identify where your company might fit within that market. So we're talking about the market of residential pest control in the Salt Lake Valley. And if you decide that you're willing to venture beyond the Salt Lake Valley, either with your own service provision or with having employees or contractors work with you, then we can look beyond the Salt Lake Valley as well. But in the immediacy, I've already begun to take a look. I've looked at your business online, of course. And obviously you have a website, you have a LinkedIn presence, you've got a social media and an online set of footprints, if you will. And that certainly doesn't surprise you. You probably rely on that to get some of your customers. Is that right?
Right.
Very good. So I've looked at that. I've also looked at the size of the pest control space in the county and then also in the state. I've looked at some of the competitive advantages that might be had if you have a business like yours where you're trying to use more eco-friendly products, more environmentally sustainable products, and to see what you can do a little bit with pricing on that and what you might be able to do with expanding the business, because you've got a bit of a unique product as opposed to the very traditional pest control that's very caustic, both to pests and pets and human beings. And I'm going to guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the reasons that you chose to use the environmentally sustainable, more efficient products is because of some sensibility of people and environments. Is that right?
Right. I saw a need that needed to be addressed.
Very good. Well, tell me a little bit more about that. Is that kind of a theme for you in how you either try to comport yourself in business or just a personal interest? Or is it just something you saw and thought, yeah, that might be interesting?
Well, yeah, that's definitely a way that I could operate outside of business. I'm definitely like eco-friendly and I love to hike and I care about the environment. But when I was talking to my friend who already operates a business in this industry, and he was telling me, some of the things that his customers are reporting that they don't like, I just thought, wow, this could be really a great opportunity to jump into. So it's not pest control in particular, but I was able to combine those two things.
So it's kind of finding a way to use your eco-friendly, planet-friendly attitude and way of thinking, and to combine that with private enterprise to do something for clients, but that you can feel good about having providing, and that hopefully can create a reasonable or above average income for yourself and your household.
Right.
Very good. All right. So you're the sole owner of the business. And so I can look at your LinkedIn profile where you have rather a lot of information, and I can develop a profile about you as the business owner, and I can develop a profile with you since you're the sole owner. I'm guessing you're also then the manager and probably the sole employee. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. I can then go ahead and put together the material with respect to the marketplace, competitive advantages of your type of business in the market, and the scale that you might be able to step into as a participant in that market. What I'll need help from you with are some of the following. So there's a marketing strategy that you're currently employing that I might be seeing part of, but probably I'm not seeing all of. So I'm going to ask you in a moment to tell me about your marketing plans and strategy. I might even end up asking you to send me a narrative, just several paragraphs on what your marketing plan and strategy is. I'd like to separately get a sense of, if you had the opportunity to grow this business, how and where do you think you would grow it? Would you stay within pest control only and go ahead and expand geographically? Or would you stay within the existing geography and add complementary products to be able to distribute to the same clients in a smaller geography? Or would you try to grow by acquisition of other companies? Those are just a couple of little ideas, right? So, what are some of your thoughts with respect to that? Another item is that we're going to have to take a look at your operating plan. Now, this might be pretty simple for right now, since you are the key employee and the owner. You're, I'm guessing, the only operator in the business, correct?
Right.
But I'll make the assumption that as the business might expand, however you choose to have it expand, that would likely not be the case. So we'll have a discussion about that, and like the other marketing strategy and plan, I'll ask you to go ahead and prepare a few paragraphs. I don't care how pretty they are. I don't care about how fancy the words are. If you can give me some of the facts, whether it's bullet point, prose, makes no difference. I'll then go ahead and turn that into a narrative that weaves in through and with some of these other elements. And then finally, I'm going to be interested in your financial condition, a little bit of your financial history, and then your financial projections. Those projections are going to be a byproduct of the current financial condition of the company and the marketing and growth plans. So some of that, if I can know what the current conditions are and I know what your plans are, I can go ahead and use that information to do a projection of future cash flows. But it's almost certain that I'm going to need some help from you on that. And that might be the most labor-intensive part. So are you in a position where over the next week, you'd be able to put together a few paragraphs on your marketing strategy, and maybe a few paragraphs on where you see your growth and expansion coming from, and then be able to send me your financials for these last 2 years that you've been in business, an income statement, balance sheet, and possibly a cash flow statement?
Definitely. I do have a question about marketing strategies, though. Is there something in particular that you're looking for? Because we do have social media and we do have, a website, but for the most part, we just kind of stick to those things.
Okay. Well, and that's what I want to hear about then to begin with. And though there's not something in particular I'm looking for other than I'd like you to tell me what you're doing for marketing. And I'd like you to tell me if you have any plan as to how to market in such a way as to support the growth that you're looking for. If you don't have a plan, that's fine at this point. I can put together what we know, you and me, what we know about the business, and then we can say, all right, in order to accomplish this growth that you might like to see, what would you do to put that together? So this is a little bit different than reaching out to someone to do a marketing plan or strategy for you. As a business plan kind of brings together many of the elements that you're already dealing with in your company, maybe in a way that helps you focus on them, see how they come together as a whole, the complementarity of the different items. And with that, once you've put together a few items, I've put together a few items, we'll share this with you and then have a conversation as to how we can expand on this to give you not just a plan that's reflective of what you're already doing, but a plan that's reflective of how you would like to move forward into the future. And then with that, we can go ahead and look at some of the different elements of that financial projection, which again starts with your current financials, your last year's financials, and then some of your expectation for future financials, which we'll work on that together. And together might mean going back and forth with some emailing. It might mean in a conversation like this, or it might simply mean in a discussion in here on campus or in your office. I think when you first were approached by Rick Haskell with the Goldman Sachs program, he indicated that you would probably spend 6, maybe even 10 hours of your time over a few months helping us with this. So I think everything I'm talking about, even putting together your financials, easily fits within that. And just so you'll know, I'll probably spend another 15 or 20 personally, and then the other 2 people on the team that I'm working with will add into that a little bit with some input, some oversight, some guidance and such. Does that make sense?
That's good to know.
Okay. So what I'd like to do then, Zach, is I'm going to follow up with an email with you, again saying, please send me these items, the narrative about the marketing, the narrative about growth, and some of the financials. But let's talk about the first 2 of those for a moment. You indicate you're doing some social media marketing. Is that active in terms of using Google AdWords or something like that? Or is it passive just in that you have a website and you have a Instagram or a Facebook page?
Yeah, so it's currently more passive, but when you talk about like growth strategies, that's where I kind of think is using search engine advertising to try to generate more growth.
And do you have expertise in that area yourself?
I do not.
Do you know someone well who does?
I do not.
Okay, so you're talking about probably getting some outside help to put some of that together. And there are a number of resources available, and we can talk about what those might be. You know, there is a program with Salt Lake County called the Salt Lake County Co-op program that has access to some technology people that might be able to assist us in this as well. We'll take a look at the possibility for that. If we do take the opportunity to make a referral to you to that program, and if they're able to put some things together for you, you just need to know that it's at the expense of Salt Lake County Economic Development. It's a program they have to try to help motivate small businesses within the county, especially those that are startups or that have been adversely affected by the pandemic, which virtually all businesses have. You started your business directly in the middle of it, right? And then those that might be owned by underrepresented households, which you don't appear to be from a minority household. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't think so by your name or now seeing you and meeting you. So I'll send you an email following up and asking you to provide those things. But tell me a little bit about the growth that you would like to see. Would you like to see expansion in a broader geographic market? Would you like to see simply more penetration in your current geographic market? Would you like to see delivering yet additional products and services to clients that you've already created in the local market, or some combination?
Yeah, the combination of the latter two sound the best, since how I just kind of moved into this area. So penetrating the local market while also maybe providing different products or services to the current market that I'm already serving. Sounds like
Okay.
a way of growing.
Any ideas as to what some of those products or services might be?
Well, right now we just kind of offer the traditional pest control, like rodent, services. But I think maybe if we do some more research and development on some of the eco-friendly products that we're using now, that could be we could maybe transfer into selling our own form of eco-friendly, do it at home, do it yourself kind of extermination products.
So you'd like to not only be in a business where you're providing that service and those products, but have an option for the DIY household to do some of their own. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I know that many pest control companies set customers up on a quarterly basis, sometimes as often as monthly, sometimes as seldom as every 6 months. So they have a recurring revenue stream. Do you have that recurring revenue structure with those clients you currently work with?
Yeah, it's weekly. We have a higher fee, obviously, for one time, but we do have a recurring weekly for a few of our clients.
Got it. And do you have a sense of how many active clients you have that have you on any sort of a recurring contract?
Maybe about 20.
Okay. So one of the things that would be helpful for me is also if you would prepare for me, not a list of who your clients are, but a list of by recurrence, how many clients. So how many clients are on a weekly basis and at what weekly cost? How many might be on a monthly basis? At what monthly cost? How many on a quarterly and such? And again, I'll put that in the email to you. That'll give me a sense of the persistency of the income that you already have. And then as we look at creating this forecast, we can then identify how many clients of which types do you need to have to reach some of your goal revenue numbers. Okay. Talk to me briefly about some of the other products that you think you might like to deliver to these same types of clients.
The different types of products. Oh, so we use like exterminator, like we would use like some sort of pesticide spray, which would be like the typical thing that exterminators or pest control people would be using. And we have a different kind of pesticide that we use to eliminate these like rodents. And I'm just thinking maybe if we like offer our own maybe custom version of this so that we don't have to be going into all these homes, we can just sell like a product.
So would you like to get to a point where you're more a provider of do-it-yourself pest control products versus being the service provider? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that would be a better option for my business.
Okay. There are clearly companies that have taken that approach. So I'm going to break for just a second here. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Hey, so what you're observing, of course, is Zach Douglas, who owns a pest control business and is my client, and me doing a role play with Zach to help students in our classes understand what you should get out of this first discussion and how you might go about getting it. And for those of you that are viewing this, we're doing this tonight because Julie reached out and said, look, I have an appointment with a client tomorrow, which is a little bit earlier than I had supposed Julie might have a client, or any of you might. I have an appointment with a client tomorrow. Would you please help prepare me? So rather than simply prep Julie, I decided to go ahead and have this conversation and release this video out to all of you to prepare all of you. I hope that's okay. So Zach and I'll just continue on with our conversation, Julie. In fact, we're actually quite a ways through it, and we're nearing the end. And as we get to the end, then I'll break and just bring you up to speed with a few things.
Okay, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
So Zach, that's rather a departure from being your what I will call garden variety pest control applier. Where are you getting your current products that are eco-friendly and that serve this need in this niche?
We get them from a local supplier.
Okay. So it's a supplier that provides them at an industrial level, a commercial level, or do they supply them on a volume level that would be appropriate for the consumer in the household?
So we buy from them at a like a commercial rate, but I think that they would be able to produce, at least in slow volumes, they would be able to produce enough for selling to customers or consumers. I may need to find another supplier if I grow rapidly, though.
Okay. So have you had a conversation with them by any chance where you've asked about buying from them in bulk and then being able to repackage and sell in lesser quantities?
Yeah, so I haven't had that conversation yet.
Okay. And is there anything about your relationship with them right now that you believe would restrict you from being allowed to do that? Any contracts, any agreements?
No, not currently.
Okay. So that's something that we might end up suggesting you explore. You'll either need to do that or find another supplier or possibly even take on the responsibility of engineering these yourselves. Do you have a background that would help us believe that you have the technical capabilities to produce these kinds of products and understand the bioengineering?
I do have a team or a group of friends that is very well versed in this, so I'm thinking maybe they could help contribute to some of the development of our own product.
Very good. So included in this email that I will send you, I'm making note of each of these. I'd like you to tell me a little bit more about that team. We don't have to take time right now, but tell me something about how you know them, where do you know them from, maybe even give me names, some of their businesses, etc. Because that sounds like that may become a pivotal part of your growth and your operating plan. Is that right?
It could be, definitely.
Very good. What else do you think I should know about your business tonight?
I bought a truck last year to use for work, to use to travel to clients' houses, and I'm not sure how I should account for that.
Okay.
Is that
So
appropriate?
rather than give you instruction on that at the moment, let's just kind of compile a list of some of these things, and then maybe I can respond and then go ahead and give you some direction or refer you to those who might be able to. What
Sure.
else?
I have some debt, and I don't know if I should be looking into paying that off so immediately, or if I should be using this money to reinvest into the business.
Good question. So let me touch on both of those items for a brief moment then. And I'm only going to do it briefly, given my general understanding of your business. Recognize that I'm a student. So I know something about these things, but not everything. So is the debt associated with the purchase of the truck?
Yes.
And is some of the debt not associated with the purchase, or is it all connected to the vehicle?
There's some that's not connected to the vehicle.
And was the vehicle purchased in your name or in the business's name?
Business's name.
Is the business a sole proprietorship, so just something you started and have run informally? Or have you done any legal work, such as created an LLC, a corporation, gotten the business its own tax ID number?
I created an LLC.
Very good. Very good. So you and the business are separated.
Correct.
Okay. The debt that you have gone into to buy the vehicle, is it in your name or the business's name?
It's an SBA loan under the business's name.
Very good. Very good. And the other debt that's not related to the vehicle, is that in your name or the business's name?
It was just the SBA loan that we received through the business, and some of that was used on the vehicle and some of it was used for something else.
Got it. Got it. So same SBA source. Very good. And what's the repayment term on that loan?
36 months.
Okay. And the payment is manageable for you? You're able to make it within the cash flows you have through the business?
Yeah, well, I still return my positive profit, positive net.
Okay. Very good. And I assume that you have these transactions detailed within your financial statements?
Yeah.
And what kind of a program do you use, or what service do you use to put together your financials?
I use QuickBooks right now.
Okay, so really a very powerful program, but that is simultaneously rather simple to learn. So as you prepare and provide us with some of the financials, if you would output them from QuickBooks into Excel, please, rather than outputting them to a PDF. That will make it a lot easier for us to use and process them.
Okay.
Any other equipment that you've needed to purchase for the business that you either keep on the truck or that you carry around with you?
There are a few just small things like spray bottles and nozzles and hoses and traps and things like this. But I don't think of that as equipment, more like supplies. So not necessarily like an asset.
Very good. Well, we've talked about a lot, and you give me a much better understanding of where you are, what's happening here, where you want to go. I don't have a full picture, of course, in part because I don't know all the questions to ask yet, and I'm not going to know some of those until I see some of this other material from you. So Zach, I'm going to go ahead and send you an email, as I indicated, identifying in bullet points each of these items I'd like you to follow up and give to us. I think they're consistent with some of the items in the list that you already got from me. So they're probably not a surprise to you. You probably even got a similar list from Rick Haskell when he sent out the original email to you. How long do you imagine it will take you to put those items together and then get them to me?
I should be able to have a few paragraphs done about the marketing and the operations and growth, and then my financial statements within the week.
Okay, so today's Thursday, so I should look for them by Thursday or Friday of next week?
Yeah, that's definitely appropriate.
Very good. If I haven't seen them, I'll go ahead and follow up with another email. Is it best to communicate with you by email, text, or phone call?
Text message would probably get through to me best.
Okay. So what I'll do then is I'll put together the email, and when I send the email, I'll also go ahead and send you a text alerting you to the fact that there's an email waiting for you as well. And that way you'll know to go get it. And I think many of us are the same way. I check my emails more often than I'd care to admit, but I check my texts constantly. I carry that with me, of course. Anything else I should know tonight, Zach?
No, I think that's it.
Well, I look forward to working with you on this. As I said, it's going to take a matter of months. We probably won't be finished with this until sometime, maybe even as late as mid-April, because again, this is part of a class and we have other things. And so it's a lengthier process than maybe were we doing this professionally. But again, I just appreciate being able to meet you and learn a little bit about your business and to have an opportunity to provide this service to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for doing this for me. It really does help.
Absolutely. You'll get an email from me soon. Thank you very much. So guys, you've seen me now walk through with Zach, just a basic human being discussion. Oh, I might seem a little stiff and formal on this, and I probably do. And that's in part because I'm trying to go a little slower than I might normally speak, trying to be a little bit more deliberate than I might normally be in my speech, because I'm trying to give a model and example for you that I know if I just throw it all in there at the rate at which Zach could absorb it, you can't absorb it. So when you have this conversation with your client, be yourself. So Julie's here with us. Julie, be yourself.
Mhm.
Don't try to be me.
Right.
For heaven's sakes, don't try to be me. It doesn't even work well for me, well enough for you, okay?
Mhm.
So be yourself, But cover these bases. I asked about him. I had him tell me about his business. I had him explain the ownership structure. He volunteered part of it, but then you picked up that I kind of probed on it a little bit as well, right? The management structure. He volunteered part of it. I probed on it a little bit. He referenced about halfway through the conversation this team. And so rather than just letting that hang there, I probed a little bit. I'm not quite ready to absorb all of that yet. And I don't think he's quite ready to completely have it fleshed out yet. He's not there yet, but he's thinking about it. So I'm asking him to send something to me about this. We talked about the financials, so he knows what to provide. We talked about the marketing plan and strategy, and in his case, it's very simple at the moment. There's going to have to be a lot more detail to this. About his growth plan and strategy. Once again, very simple. There's going to have to be a lot more detail. And then indicated that I can use his current financials plus that growth plan and begin to put together a projection. What will happen next then, after I get his materials back from his response to my email, is I'll put some of these things together. And as I'm putting them together, it's going to create in my mind probably only another 75 or 100 questions, some of which I might throw him by email. And then some of which I might want to reserve for the next time he and I have a discussion. So this will not be the only time that I'll have a discussion with Zach. It won't be the only time that you'll have a discussion with your clients. It's the first time.
Right.
You'll notice then that I also asked him when he could have these things for me. He gave me a response about a week. I then gave him an extra day, Thursday or Friday of next week, and then not only found out how I can follow, or not only got permission to follow through with him, but how to follow through with him and in order to get his attention. And so I got a lot of information in think about a half an hour phone call or Zoom.
Right.
So Julie, having observed this, what's some of your feedback here? What did you learn? What did you see?
Yeah, I think it was helpful when he asked maybe like a slightly harder question that we might know the answer to. And you kind of gave the answer of like being able to circle back to that and like, let me, kind of think about that. I can send you an email. So that was helpful because that was something I was like thinking about, like, how am I going to manage that exactly if he asks me a question that I'm not sure on? So I think that was really helpful. I think the ending part was helpful with like how to kind of end the conversation, how to like specify how you're going to follow up and the timeline, and asking for what his preferred method of contact is. Yes, very helpful. I have some ideas on what I was going to ask him, but this is helpful to add to it.
Well, and the client that you're going to be communicating with, completely different story, completely different situation.
Right.
You've done some good research on the company, so you might have a little bit more here, than I have going into this.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like you to pick up from this is you'll notice I asked him several times, what else would you like to tell me?
Yes.
I could have continued to do that. And every time I asked him, I got a little bit more. I could have done it again. He got a little bit more and more and more and more. But at a point, he's fatigued with that. I'm fatigued with that. And it's less valuable. So it's going to be much more valuable for me to take and synthesize his information and then have a much better sense as to what I'm talking about for round two. So Zach, you and I have done a lot of work together for now what seems like a lot of years, right? You've had many conversations with these business owners, maybe not for a business plan, but for financial needs, QuickBooks, financial statements, etc. What did you pick up from this conversation that you thought was particularly useful?
From this conversation, I think the probing it's something that will come to you as a consultant naturally. when they're talking about their business, and people generally like to talk about themselves and their business. So it's not very hard. For me, I was making up a lot of the things that I was saying on the spot. So that is what it is. But when you're asking somebody like, tell me a little bit about your business, and then they start to go in and then they say something that you might have a question about at the very end or in the middle, you might say, tell me more about that middle part. And then they might go in on that middle part and you might probe a little bit more, or you might circle back to something that they said earlier and say, well, I remember that you mentioned this, maybe tell me a little bit more about that. I think it's really important to just like exhaust all the avenues that you can, and get as much as you can from the client in the 30 minutes or however long, 40 minutes the meeting is.
So some of that is kind of a follow-up on what you saw me doing and heard me doing with you. What would you have liked me to have asked? What would you add to this that maybe I didn't think to?
Maybe this is just something that one of my own clients recommended to me at the very end of an engagement. And the person told me to ask the business owner what they are looking to get out of this. That's maybe something that is worth the ask on the introduction meeting. Like after you introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about your business and then tell me what you're looking to get out of this. Tell me what you're looking to get out of participating in this program. And I think that could be really beneficial.
And that's a great ad, Zach. And it's commonsensical. And I'm now sitting here a little bit embarrassed for having not done it. But that's a great comment. Well, Zach and Julie, thanks for spending the time with me on a Thursday evening. Zach, you for preparing for this and going through this with me. Julie, for you motivating it. And I will, within the next business day, get this a little bit edited, although only a little bit, and then send it out to both of the classes so they can have access to it. Thanks again, guys.